Board members, thank you for making it back. As soon as we have Chair Davis at the table, we will begin with agenda item 4. This is our Finance Committee report. So I can see Chair Davis. I don't mean to put too much pressure on Chair Davis. I know. Chair Davis did stand up. Okay. And now Chair Davis is approaching the microphone. And I apologize to whoever you were conversing with, but we've got some work to get done here. So please, Chair Davis, when you're ready.
Thank you. Okay, I don't know if the screen is going to be coming up. Do you want me to wait for the screen or just start going?
Why don't we just go ahead and begin while that's coming up?
Okay. Our first motion for the board was that the board approves R277484 Data Standards Draft 2 on second and final reading.
Thank you. And this is agenda item 4.3. And the motion is, or was stated that the board approves R277-484 Data Standards Draft 2 on second and final reading. Member Bogus?
To be fair, I just turned on my light because one of these I have a question on and I'm not certain if it's this one or not. So give me 1 second.
Sure.
You were moving so fast.
And I believe it's being pulled up on the screen right now. While she's searching for that question, Member Davis, do you want to give a brief recap if you recall, or?
I can just say that this was basically to clarify when LEAs and schools need to alert USBE of significant changes to data reporting.
This is not it.
Okay, so the motion then is that the board approves R277-484 Data Standards Draft 2 on second and final reading. Seeing no additional lights, let's go ahead and vote. Member Carey?
Yes.
Thank you. That passes unanimously with two absent. Is Member Green online? Not yet? Okay. With two absent right now, Member Green and Member Brinton. Chair Davis.
4.4 committee motion for the board is that the board approves R277-477 distributions of funds from the trust land distribution account and administration of the school land trust program draft 1 on second and final reading.
Okay, the motion before the board is that the board approves R277-477 distributions of funds from the trust distribution account and administration of the school land trust program draft 1 on second and final reading. Member Bogus.
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So I don't know who exactly to ask this to. I was had a lot of consternation during committee, but on line 42 and 43, I'm deeply concerned about including the language defined as a learning I apologize for my tongue twister, defined as a learning objective. I don't, learning objectives are very specific. I don't know how you define it as a learning objective. It seems like weird, convoluted language to me. Can someone help explain to me how that could play out in real time and be used with land trust funds?
So this is, let me get some clarity, and I don't know if we don't have any lights on, so it might be a further question, but let me get clarity here. You're saying line 42 academic mean you're questioning that?
Yes, and later on, when it includes non-academic, it has some other language that well, I'll just say I think it's weird right now because I don't fully understand the purpose or how it would play out in the end.
Chair Davis, you turned your light on. I'm not sure if you had a response to this question. Go ahead.
I think it means that if they're saying it's academic, it has to fall within the Utah State Core Standards. But if Director Plant is here, I know that she has been working extensively with a group of stakeholders to work on this language. And so this is what they came up with, and she may be better able to clarify if she's here today.
I do have a light from Elise. It's now gone.
Thank you, Paula Plant. I'm the director of the School Children's Trust. So the purpose of trying to define academic was because we were having people say, what is academic, right? And it kind of hasn't been defined clearly enough for councils to understand. So the definition that was provided here is to try and capture for a council what is academic. And sometimes a learning, and maybe maybe the words are not correct, but the intent is to say what is academic. And we have had the non-academic part that you've referred to has been really convoluted and very confusing to people. So our attempt was to say what would be an academic, what could be included as part of an academic goal. And an objective, I think what they were thinking of is it could be a skill or a I don't know. If I've got the wrong words, we're happy to change the words. But the point is just to say, what is academic, and to be able to define that for a council. And if objective is the wrong word, I'm happy to replace it with what would be more appropriate.
Thank you, Paula.
Yes, thank you.
Do you have a follow-up or?
I might have a motion, but to me, and I don't know how other board members read this, but to me, the grammatics of it make the terminology listed or defined, but it doesn't say where. And because of the comma, it excludes the core standards instead of includes the core standards. And so I think we can frame this better to make it more clear. That's just my opinion, but I might come back. Thanks.
Just a brief comment on that. I don't, if we're going to define academic beyond this, if we're going to go and say, you know what, I like the start here, I like where this is going, I don't know if we have, it seems, Member Bogus, that it's kind of important and kind of, I know, understatement, but
Yeah.
it may need more time. I don't know if this could be sent back to committee to say, hey, we spent a lot of time on this rule, but academic needs a definition. I don't know if that has to go into R277-100, right? I don't know if we haven't defined it in the past, but as you think about this and say, you know, I have a better definition, I just don't want to rush board members into saying, yeah, this is what academic means or doesn't mean. So if we're not happy with this one, that's fine. That's your prerogative to say, you know what, I'm going to put a motion forward. I just, again, I bring caution into rushing an important term such as this. So let's move over to Member Earl, and then I've got Member Lear.
I have a motion on line 274. I'd like to strike student-centered. And then there is a grammatical error, but I don't know that I need to make a motion for that on line. This is just a secondary thing. You can tell me if I need to put it in my motion. On line 255, it says read. I think it should be ready. Paul, if you want to double check that, and I think that's a grammatical error. I think that could be fixed. But if I need to make a motion, I'm happy to do that. So
I'll second Member Earl's first motion.
Okay, the motion then is to strike student-centered from line 274. And we have a second. I don't, as part of the second part of your motion, Member Earl, I don't believe that would be
okay.
necessary. I believe it says it should read ready. We'll let Elise look into that, and then she can bring it back. We'll make another motion if we need to.
Okay,
So speak to the first part, though.
so the first part, I don't know if this is a specific way, because I've seen student-centered be a specific type of way of working with kids. And so I would rather it just read academic goal statements that align with the areas identified in subsection I. So there's no confusion that it could be a broad way of working with and not a limited. So I would take out student-centered, which it could be student-centered, but I've seen student-centered used in very specific ways. So I would just ask that we remove that.
Member Lear, is this to this motion, or do you have a different question on the main subject?
It's related. It's not specifically, it's not only related to this. Does that make sense?
Sure. Well, the motion before us is to strike student-centered, and you've got the light, so you're welcome to speak to this motion. And I can get you twice, or you can.
I think I can say what I need to, and it relates to this. I may need to ask if it's, I don't know if this would be a question for Director Plant or not, but I may, if that's okay. We've been wrestling with this issue of academic, whether it's student-centered or whether it's just academic goal statements for 30 years. I mean, for as long as I can remember, about school land trust money. And it didn't matter so much when it was a few $1,000s per school, and now it's $100,000 for some schools, and it seems to be more important. But I wanted to ask, and this goes also to the point Member Earl made, but what is the why the focus again on this academic definition word phrase? Is it because legislators are complaining? Is it because are there complaints coming to your office about things that are not, or uses that are not academic? Or can you help me understand, and then so I can understand why we keep coming back to this instead of just letting LEAs. And I have a further comment to that, but I'd like to hear what Paula has to say first. What the urgency is, or why the focus now.
Director Plant, Paula.
Thank you, Paula Plant, Director of School Children's Trust. So this program has always been intended to be academic specific and student-centered. We have plans that sometimes come forward that may be academic in nature, but are not necessarily student-centered. So how is it going to improve the student, right? And people can make, people have sometimes put in plans that if you improve the surroundings of the faculty room, that the teachers are going to be happier and the students are going to do better. I mean, that's a reach, right? And so we're trying to help councils know from the beginning what is the expectation. And the law actually indicates that it needs to be student-centered. And so that's the reason for that. But it doesn't, I don't think it has to be in there because it's in the law. So we would just be implementing things that need to be student-centered. Also, we sometimes have plans come forward that are specifically about improving teacher learning, right? And that's fine. I mean, professional development, there's a lot of money spent on professional development, but at the end, the goal, the academic goal needs to be, how will students do better if you do this for teachers? Am I making, is that clarity? So that's kind of where it's coming from. We're trying to make sure that people understand that this is about improving education for students.
And
Thank you. Follow up?
And you sort of, you didn't quite answer my question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Because what I'm asking, is this your staff saying these are not student-centered? Or is this complaints from legislators? Or and I don't know if that's uncomfortable for you to answer, but if you have pressure to make this more clear, I feel a little better about it. If you're, because I feel really strongly and have for 30 years that this money should be decided at the local level, and I want it to be as broadly. My druthers would be that it's as broadly interpreted as possible. So, if you're getting pressure and, well, we'll see about this money if it isn't academic, then I'm a little more sympathetic. If it's just and I don't mean just, but if it's staff saying this isn't directly academic enough for in our interpretation or in our judgment, then I'm less sympathetic. So I'm just asking if you can identify where the concern is coming from.
And I have a comment from Superintendent Hart as well.
Um, wasn't this a topic of the conversation of the advisory board? I think the advisory board was the one that made this recommendation, not staff. It was something that was, that has come up. I completely understand the concern, and you do want those decisions to be made at the school level as much as possible. But the guardrails have to be there, and what ends up happening in too many cases, I think a few years ago it was playgrounds, and it was sporting facilities, and so there's this creep that kind of starts to happen, and it tangentially becomes, well, the logic model is that if other people, like you said, if other people if the teachers are happy, the students are better served. And that's just too, these funds have been so protected because they are vast. And if there isn't a very, very careful process to ensure that it is used for the intention that it was, then they become very vulnerable. And it's just easy at the school level. I've been there many times where it just starts to have mission creep. So I see this as a way of being very clear, very explicit about the lane that needs to stay in, and that is the direct academic achievement of students. So I understand the concern. I don't think it takes away. What I think it does is it clarifies that it is not capital money. It's not extracurricular money. It's not, I remember back when we decided to add science. It was just reading and math 10 years ago. And it was a big deal for us to add science and some other areas. And you had to check which academic area it was. It's just, I think it's very consistent, and I don't think it limits as much as it guides.
Okay.
One more, just brief follow-up. I think the example of the teacher's faculty room is not as good a one as the one having to do with athletics, where now it seems like that's further narrowed on line 365, I think, or maybe I've got the wrong line, but my concern is we have lots and lots of data that show us that students who are engaged in extracurricular activities do better in school. We have reports every 3 or 4 years that tell us that, support that. And yet now we seem to be limiting that. So I find that a more compelling example than the teacher-faculty rooms, which I agree with. That's a much bigger reach. But to say, when we absolutely know that students who are involved in extracurricular activities do better academically, to then limit an LEA's need for that money to be directed to those programs is harder for me. So I don't know if we can have both. I don't know if we can be clear about, no, don't use it for a teacher's faculty room. The old example was the curtains in the faculty room, or the curtains someplace else. But that doesn't make as much sense to me. But extracurricular activities does make sense to me when the data are so clear and consistent. So can we have both? I mean, if a school can show that do they have to show it with their own personal data, or can they show it just in all these reports that are issued? That is kind of a question. How do they demonstrate that I think is more justifiable? And then I'm not crazy about that limitation that's changed on line, I guess, I thought it was 365. So can you speak to that briefly?
Just before you do, remember, we have a motion to remove.
And maybe we should go to that first, because I recognize I've strayed from that
Yeah.
exact example, but it goes to the bigger question, and
I know.
I don't know.
And you warned me that you were kind of dancing on this here, and I've got 5 lights here, and I don't know if they're about this motion, and I want to get to the meat here if it doesn't have anything to do with this motion. So I've got member Davis, Bogus, and Kelly. Raise your hand, please, if it is around removing student-centered. Seeing no comments on that, are we ready to vote on the motion that's on the floor? We are. Okay, so one last time, the motion before the board is to strike student-centered on line 274. Let's go ahead and vote. Member Carey?
Yes.
That motion fails. 8 against, 6 in favor. Those in favor being member Kelly, member Carey, member Brinton, member Longacre, member Bogus, and member Earl. Okay, so I'm going to go back to member Lear's question. I hope that member Lear, you might need to restate that since we're back in the main body of the rule.
I'll do it more simply than I did in my previous comment. I'm wondering if a school can show using its own data or a broader data set that students in the school are more engaged academically, showing more academic improvement. Can that money be used for that? What's the level of proof that's required?
Okay, specifically to the level of proof, that wouldn't be proof to us. That would be proof to the LEA, right? Because the LEA is the one it's the local board that does the approval. I think it might be helpful if I explain that the direction from the board for us to review these rules was to review them for clarity and simplification. And so our intent in this was to be clear. Your reference to line 365, the intent was if we take out co-curricular or extracurricular, but we define what academic is, then it can be extracurricular. It could be co-curricular, whatever co-curricular means. People ask us all the time, what is co-curricular? And I can't answer the question. So let's get rid of co-curricular, and if it's extracurricular, but it supports something academic and we understand what academic is, absolutely. Extracurricular, then that's up to the local board to make that decision.
And
is that making sense?
It is, and I appreciate your more direct answer. I just have to follow up though with, unfortunately, that's where I think that the local board will approve this, but sometimes then it goes to I'm unclear if always the Trustland staff says, all right, if they say it's academic, it's academic, or if there is sometimes a pushback to the local board level. And I absolutely agree the local board has to approve it, but is there a pushback from your staff to say, no, that's not academic?
I think that was the intent of trying to do this clarification, right? And we have had some pushback in audits. And so we want to have, if we're doing not audits, but compliance reviews, if we're doing a compliance review, we want clarity to do the compliance review. And so we've had some questions about, well, was that extracurricular activity academic or was it non-academic? And we're like, let's define academics, and everybody knows what academic is. And then if it's extracurricular and it supports their academic goal, who would deny? I mean, we wouldn't. A local board may choose to, but we wouldn't. So our intent is to create clarity, and by taking out extracurricular doesn't, it should mean that it can be extracurricular.
I've taken enough time. Thank you for that. You were really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. I know that Chair Davis, you didn't want to send it back to committee. I'm just going to point out that 3 of the 5 committee members have their lights on for this, and I don't know if it was ready to come out of committee. But with that, I know just an obvious comment here, because you're next on the list here. That's why. So. Okay, so you're just sitting there. So, okay, now we narrowed it down to 2 already. See, we're moving forward. No, I'm not. I'm not calling you out. So I do have Vice Chair Bollinger, who has been waiting patiently as well in the queue. She can't turn her light on. I apologize. And then I have Member Bogus. I've got Member Davis, Member Kelly, and Member Earl.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to wrap back around to the definition of academic and kind of also address Member Lear's concerns. As an administrator, when I was a principal, our focus when we did our land trust plans were always academic. So I don't see this as a change. I do see it as a clarification. And the way that I read this definition on lines 42 and 43 would be a learning objective within the standards, a skill within the standards, a concept within the standards, or a subject area within the standards. So for me, it actually adds clarification, and I appreciate that, because when I talk about a learning objective, oftentimes teachers, you'll take a standard and break it down into chunks and clearly identify which part of that standard, a specific learning objective, they want the students to be able to learn for that day. That's their learning goal. So that's how I read it, if that's the purpose, and it's very helpful to be clearly defined. Thank you.
Member Bogus.
Thank you. I believe Deputy Superintendent Nui has my motion to define academic that way.
If this is correct on the screen, I will state your motion, see if we get a second.
Yes, it is correct. Sorry, I apologize. My
So-
look was of affirmation.
Yeah, so the motion then, the unspoken motion, which is about to be spoken, is to amend the definition of academic to read, academic means an area listed or defined within the official Utah course standards for K-12 education, including A, a learning objective, B, skill, C, concept, or D, subject area. And we have a second. Back to you, Member Bogus.
Thank you. I understand intent, but I don't believe those words capture the intent the way they're formulated with all the ors, ands, and commas. And I think this really puts us under the umbrella and keeps us from rogue and auxiliary things coming into play. So I think it does the job better. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not seeing additional lights to this motion. Seeing none, let's go ahead and vote on this motion. Again, it is to amend the definition of academic to read as follows. Academic means an area listed or defined within the official Utah course standards for K-12 education, including A, a learning objective, B, skill, C, concept, or D, subject area. Let's go ahead and vote. Member Carey.
No.
Member Green is a yes.
And Member Green, thank you. That passes 14 in favor, 1 opposed. That opposition coming from Member Carey. We've got Member Kelly.
I'd just like to note that I am a member of the Finance Committee, and as such, I would like to make a motion that we add after line 364 a Roman numeral 8 and add teacher conferences or teacher training. I'll speak to that motion if I get a second.
So the motion, let's make sure we get it correct on the screen. Member Kelly is to add after line 364,
Oh, you're right, 364, yep.
Roman numeral 8, teacher conferences or teacher training. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that's been seconded. Back to you, Member Kelly.
Yeah, as I was discussing this with Member Bogus, one of the things that she said that really hit home to me is that we've got to make clear what is not this money is to be used for, and I think what the code's trying to do, and I think we need to just make clear that this needs to be. It's money that needs to be spent on the student, and I think teacher training and teacher conferences is a stretch that directly goes to the student.
Anybody speaking to this motion? Vice Chair Bollinger. Oh, and Member Davis, go ahead, and then we got a second. We got Member Davis and then Vice Chair Bollinger.
Yeah, thank you. I would actually speak against that motion. When we talk about teacher conferences or teacher training, we know that the teacher is the number one factor in student improvement and student academic growth. And I truly believe that teachers need training and opportunities to go to specific conferences to learn the skills that they need. And because these plans are approved by a school community council, this is a local decision. This is parents working with their administrator, looking at their school data to determine if that's a need. And I trust that local control to determine if the appropriate use is used within that school. So again, I think limiting the ability to use that for teacher conferences and teacher training is a disservice to our students. Thanks.
Member Davis.
Just a question for Director Plant. I thought I heard you say earlier that many schools use trust lands funds for teacher trainings to help improve student learning, but I wasn't sure. Did I hear that earlier? So this motion would take all of those community council plans out if they include teacher trainings.
Short answer, yes. Is that what we're getting?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so. I don't know if it might be helpful. So if a school chooses reading, for instance, an elementary school chooses reading, part of improving reading may be improving the teacher's ability to teach that new curriculum or that new, or to be involved in practice learning on their computers or whatever. And so we very often find in an academic goal that teacher learning, teacher professional development supports getting to that place where the students are doing better. So, yes.
Thank you. I'm going to speak against this motion as well. This is where the money goes. I don't know. It's not like I can just pay children to get better, right? I have to pay the teachers to improve to help the children get better. So I don't plead very often, but consider this one. Member Longacre. Or I'm sorry, Member Longacre.
I just want to agree with Board Member Bollinger. We need to keep this local control. If they feel like teacher training is best used for these for this fund, then so be it.
All right. Member Bogus.
I tend to agree with Member Kelly here, in that there's value in teacher training. I will not deny that, but these funds are meant to benefit students. And so if we want it to benefit students, I understand that there's a trickle-down effect when you increase teacher capacity. But when the vast majority of these funds are being spent on training, it doesn't hit students the same way having another teacher in the building would. It doesn't hit students the same way having a science specialist would. It doesn't hit students the same way when teachers are going to training, when you could spend that money on an entire another FTE. And so I think we might be talking six of one, half dozen of another, but I don't see teacher training hitting the student the same way I see many other things hitting the student. So just my thoughts.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and tee this up for a vote here. The motion is that that the board add after line 364, Roman numeral 8, teacher conferences or teacher training. Let's vote. Member Carey,
No.
Member Green,
Yes.
Oh,
That
wait,
motion-
Chair?
Yes.
Chair, I apologize. I don't know if it'll make a difference or not, but I am in support of Member Kelly's motion. I apologize.
no worries. We will get that changed. That's 15 votes in. That motion fails. 11 in opposition. 4 for the motion. Those 4 that were a yes are Member Green, Member Carey, Member Kelly, and Member Bogus. Member Earl.
Yes, on line 374, I would like to strike student-centered and replace that with focused. From what I could hear from both our superintendent as well as Paula Plant, the idea is to keep it centered on the students, right? That's where the focus is. And so it's just that student-centered has some nuances. And so I'd rather it be clear and not ambiguous as to what that is. So I change it to focus.
So the motion is to amend line 274
Student focused.
to strike student-centered and replace with focus or focused, student focused. Is this correct on the screen?
Yes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Member Earl.
Yes, please vote for the amendment. I think I explained it before I got my second, so I apologize.
I've got Vice Chair
That's a good
Bollinger
one.
and then Member Lear.
Thank you, Chair. I would actually speak against this motion. When we talk about what these words mean, student-centered and student-focused in practice and in the educational community, I mean, I studied curriculum and instruction for years and years, and there's a big difference between student-centered and student-focused in practice. Student-centered is focused more on outcomes of student learning. Student-focused is more of a focus on the diversity of the students and creating equitable learning opportunities and experiences. So in practice, this is a totally different focus, and I would prefer for it to be focused on the outcomes of student learning. Thank you.
Member Lear.
I think Director Plant was the one that said that actually the student-centered language is in the law, and that's what my question exactly. I wondered, I would like to see where it is because I don't support confusing things with language that's not consistent with the law. So if it literally says student-centered in the law, in the code, I'd rather keep it that way. And I think Director Nui is working on that, or Superintendent Nui, sorry.
Deputy Superintendent Nui.
Thanks. So in a quick review of the law, there's a lot of mention of students and having it be directed toward students, but there is no mention of either student-centered or student-focused. So neither of those phrases appear.
Member Earl.
Be open to putting directed towards students, or what is the language they're using? No, there is not. So.
And then,
Member
okay,
Lear.
never mind. I'm through. That helps me, but
Okay.
I wondered if Vice Chair Bollinger could see a distinction between directed to students versus student-focused or student-centered.
Vice Chair Bollinger.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I don't see a difference between that specific language, but there's definitely a difference between student-centered and student-focused.
Member Brenton?
was just looking up online, like student-centered learning as a definition, it says is a comprehensive pedagogical approach and a philosophy that fundamentally shifts the control and responsibility of learning from the teacher to the student. So to me, that definition would be different, where and student focused is a broader institutional mindset or organizational goal that ensures all decisions from curriculum design to administrative policies are made with the ultimate benefit and needs of the student in mind.
Member Bogus?
Thank you. I'm going to put on my glasses so I don't misspeak. I would speak in favor of the motion, in particular because I do believe that explicit instruction is one of the best ways to get students to the finish line with high academic skill sets. And the core philosophy under student-centered learning is that students are the primary agent of their learning, whereas student-focused means that the needs, interests, and success is the priority of the teachers. Those are two different things. It kind of goes back to whether it's a constructivist mindset or another mindset. And the idea that students can concoct knowledge out of nothing by putting together a few things it just isn't logical. Nevertheless, it's been debunked in many studies. And so I do like the words student focused in this framework. So I would ask you to support the motion. Thank you.
Member Davis?
I'd like make a substitute motion to use the language in code.
Before somebody seconds that, would you like to say what the language in code is?
I think it's what's on the screen there. And we'd have to see how it embeds with the rule language, and have direct impact on student learning.
So the substitute motion is to strike student-centered on line 274 and replace with academic goal statements that align with the areas identified in subsection I and have direct impact on student learning.
I'm just saying using the language have direct impact on student learning. We would need to see how it on the screen, how it fits in with the actual line.
Do we have a second to this? We have a second. I'm going to ask, I know we are way behind schedule, but I'm going to ask that we take 3 minutes so that you can reframe this motion to read along with line 274. Is that okay?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. That is 274. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
So it would read as is on the screen.
Okay, then that's how it would read.
So we don't need 3 minutes. We're ready now. Okay. So the motion has been stated.
Then I check with Director Plant. Does that fit within the intent of the advisory group?
Short answer, yes. Okay. So do you want to speak to this, Member Davis?
I think it just bridges the concern between the verbiage, losing the opportunity to look at student outcomes, and then all the discussion we've just had. I think it bridges that, and it just sticks to the code and matches the intent of the advisory group.
Okay. So the substitute motion before the board is that the board strike, essentially we're replacing 274 and 275 with the following language. So it would now read academic goal statements that align with the areas identified in subsection I and have direct impact on student learning. Seeing no lights, let's vote. Member Carey?
Member Carey is a yes.
Member Green?
Yes.
That passes unanimously. This brings us back to the underlying motion, which is that the board approves R277-477 distributions of funds from the trust distribution account and administration of the school land trust program, draft 1 as amended, on second and final reading. Member Carey, do you have a hand up?
No, it was I did, Chair, but Member Davis addressed it in her remarks, so no.
Okay, thank you. Member Bogus.
I have a question and I might have a motion. Could we go back to the prohibitions very quickly? I believe it's on line 354. So through the chair, I am wondering, in particular when it comes to teacher training. So let's say, just as an example, I'm pulling something out of the air here. We have teacher training A that says, hey, we know that relationships with students are important and that the outcome of instruction is better when students know that you care for them and you love them, all the things, right? And this goes through the process and we spend $100,000 sending teachers to training that says build relationships and learn kids' names because it helps them learn math. Is it my understanding that without a prohibition here, schools can do that?
Paula, go ahead.
Thank you. Paula Plant, Director, School Children's Trust. So that would be a decision up to the local board. If the local board felt like that was going to help improve reading or math or whatever their academic goal was, it would be up to the local board to make that decision. They can spend money on behavioral issues if it supports an academic goal. And we're seeing more and more of that related to the emotional needs of students in schools now. So I think my answer is that would be a local board decision. They would determine that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so let me restate the motion one more time, and then we will vote. The motion is that the board approves R277-477 distributions of funds from the trust distribution account and administration of the school land trust program, draft 1 as amended, on second and final reading. Let's go ahead and vote. Member Carey?
No.
Member Green?
No.
And that passes 11 in favor, 4 in opposition. Those opposed are Member Green, Member Carey, Member Kelly, and Member Bogus. Chair Davis.
Okay, we are on another trust land motion, so everybody hang on. This one is 4.5. The motion for the board is that the board continue and approve R277-491 School Community Council's draft 1 on second and final reading.
We just did agenda item 4.4.
Yeah,
We're now
the
on
more
4.5.
disbursement one, and this is one of the more the makeup of the council.
So the motion then is that the board continue and approve R277-491 School Community Council's draft 1 on second and final reading. Seeing no lights. Member Bogus.
It relates to this, but also a little tangential, but I promise you I'm germane. I have a concern that we're amending a lot of these, and the only amendment is the framework, yet we're getting ready to repeal the framework. Is there a reason we didn't do the framework before we go through amending a single line in all of these? And I understand that this one has more than a single line, but that was the first thing I saw.
From what I understand, it was postponed from last meeting. It won't go into effect immediately. It will.
Oh, that's true. It'll go into effect in 90 days. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Member Earl?
I just want to seek a clarification on one piece and then possible motion. On line, sorry, let me go back here. Line 143, the superintendent's, so these are the exemptions, schools that are exempt and they've gone through this process, right? They couldn't, okay, and they have a whole process spelled out that they have to go through. So the superintendent, it said is that the right line? Oh, maybe that's not the right line. Wherever the superintendent gets a report. Is that the right line? Sorry. I think it's I have 143, but I don't know if for each exemption granted. Oh, okay, so the LEA governing board shall provide to the superintendent. Are we understanding that, yeah, so it's that section there, 11. I just put 143 because that's the area. For each exemption granted, an LEA governing board shall provide to the superintendent the form submitted under subsection 5 and the board meeting minutes. I guess what I'm asking, I'd like that comes to the superintendent. I'd like that to come to us. Do we need to formally put that into the rule just at the end of when that comes to them? I would like to see it too. Does there need to be a formal process for that, or is that something that we see will happen as a report out? That's what I'm asking. I want the board to be aware of who's being exempted. No, and that's what it is, right? It's a cumulative report at the end of the year about all those that have the exemption. Is that not right?
No.
No. Okay.
No, so they send us a copy of the minutes when the local board said, okay, the school's gone through the process, we're going to exempt them from seating a council. They send us the minutes, and then that's our authorization to exempt them, because we're not authorized to exempt them, the local board is. So they send it to us, we save it. If you want copies of those, we can forward those to you easily.
Could we just do an annual report? Do you know what I mean? I don't want every individual one. I just want to know at the end of the year how many are doing this. So should I put this in the rule?
I can we can add it in our procedures. I do a quarterly report to the finance committee. I could do it then, if that's the appropriate place.
Or either way, if it's going to get done, then I don't need it in the rule. Otherwise, I'd put something in there about the superintendent shall provide an annual report of the exemptions. Did we understand that would just get done? Okay.
So the motion before the board then is that the board continue and approve R277-491, School Community Councils, Draft 1 on second and final reading. Let's go ahead and vote. Member Carey?
Yes.
Member Green?
Yes.
We need one more. Oh, we have one absent. Sarah's absent. So that passes unanimously. Back to you, with one absent, back to you, Chair Davis.
Thank you. Under number 4.7, the motion for the board is that the board waive R277-479-3 charter school special education add-on funding for FY26 for expanding charter schools whose special education add-on and special education self-contained allocations would be reduced from their amounts in the legislative estimates for these programs under the rule.
Okay, the motion before the board is that the board waive R277-479-3 charter school special education add-on funding for FY26 for expanding charter schools whose SPED add-on and SPED self-contained allocations would be reduced from their amounts in the legislative estimates for these programs under the rule.
And may I just give a bit of background here? There are some schools that have been funded for students that were predicted coming up in expansions and such, but then didn't materialize. And so we need to go back and figure out a way to true up, if you will, in these instances. And what also happened additionally in the committee is that we opted to work on a formula that will help to fix this problem in the future. But we've got a group of stakeholders, I think we're meeting as early as next week, to start working on with our stakeholders how we can do this over a bit of time so that we don't hit a fiscal cliff or look at MOE issues and things of that nature. So this is for this year, this waiver, but we are looking at how to rectify the problem long term.
Vice Chair Bollinger.
Thank you, Chair. And I don't know if this would be directed at staff. I just have some clarifying questions. Before I ask my questions, I just wanted to say I appreciate the intent. You guys had quite the extensive conversation I was able to listen to in committee, and we all know that special ed students are underfunded anyway. So
Yeah.
even if they get this money, it probably doesn't even cover their services they need. But just a few questions. And again, through you, Chair, I'm not sure exactly who could answer, but wondering who estimates the special ed numbers for those expanding charters? How is that determined?
Deborah, you have a
Yeah, if we
response?
can recognize Director Yuri to come and address these questions.
Yes. Okay. Please, Director Yuri.
Sam Uri, School Finance Director. In the past, the estimates were based on statewide averages. And so these new and expanding charter schools were funded at that level. And the way the formula worked was, you have this 5-year rolling average with growth. And so they're projected for this growth. It gets put into the formula, and there was never a true up mechanism over the course of, over a decade. We haven't gone as far back to see how far it goes back. It's probably longer than that, but yeah, it was just statewide special ed population averages.
One follow-up, please. And so is that true? So if a LEA or a district adds an additional school and they're using estimates, is this same concern happening, or is it different? Are those numbers already trued up because it's in a district?
It works a little bit differently in the districts, and we haven't had this issue in districts, just in the charter schools.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other votes or lights, let's get ready for, Member Lear, go ahead.
If there are any federal special ed, I guess we're giving special ed more money, so there wouldn't be any federal special ed concerns. Is that right? It's okay, but the answer is yes. We're not taking away money.
Right. In the working group, we plan to address any potential concerns with maintenance of effort and federal as we step down and get them more in line with the rest of the state.
I'm just having a hard time understanding how the word waiver sort of applies to this. But now that helps. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Let me restate the motion and we will be ready to vote. The motion is that the board waive R277-479-3 charter school special education add-on funding for FY26 for expanding charter schools whose SPED add-on and SPED self-contained allocations would be reduced from their amounts in the legislative estimates for these programs under the rule. Let's vote. Member Carey?
Yes.
Member Green?
Yes.
This passes unanimously. Chair Davis.
That concludes our report just in time for lunch. Or
Thank you.
Law and Licensing Committee. One of the two.